Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. Today we have Ben McAdam with us. Ben, please say hello to the people.
Hello, the people. How are you all?
So Ben was one of the members of the very first ever arena cohort. He did the accelerator when it was just very new and raw, and he has a pretty impressive transformation even just during the 6 weeks. And I wanted to bring him in here to talk a little bit about that and the lessons that he's shared and kind of his perspective on how it felt during the process and what helped him more than anything else. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, Ben. Can you please introduce yourself a little bit? Who you are, what your business does?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Ben McAdam. My business is called Profits Collective, and what I do is I help business owners understand their numbers and grow their businesses, whether they want to grow their profits, grow their businesses, or both. Usually there's some unknown for them around what their numbers mean and what to do about it, but it can kind of branch out for there. The numbers are a good canary in the coal mine for all sorts of issues. Cool. I generally coach one-on-one and occasionally do groups, and been doing this for quite a while now. I think, where am I? Somewhere 14, 15 years. I don't know. It's been a while.
Okay. So that's a good piece of context for 15 years. So you did the arena, I want to say about a year ago now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So give us a framework of where you were at year 14 and where you are right now. Like, were you there? Where are you right now?
Yeah. So the quick headlines is that I was earning anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a month, and I wanted to earn a lot more. I wanted to support my family, wanted to travel. Couldn't see how that would happen. I was getting fantastic results for people and tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars kind of results, and charging them like $500 a month or $750 a month. And fearful and reluctant of charging higher, fearful and reluctant of doing podcast and presentation opportunities, fearful and reluctant of going after bigger clients where I could actually have a bigger impact with the knowledge that I have, which would be better for the client, and they'd more able to pay me more what I was worth, and I'd be able to earn more. It'd be great for the family, all this kind of stuff. And I had been wrestling with that fear and reluctance for years. And I help other people with that reluctance sometimes as part of what I do. Just couldn't crack it for myself. And I'd tried a lot of stuff to try and do it. Like, I wasn't just accepting the situation. None of it really seemed to work. And then the now picture is,
I'm curious. What did you try?
I tried a couple of different therapists. I tried masterminds with other business owners. I tried journaling and meditation and going on walks and in nature and
the kitchen sink, basically.
The kitchen sink and events and conferences and YouTube and blog posts and quite a lot of things.
Okay, and where are you right now?
Well, right now, I'm actually in Rome and traveling constantly with my large family, which is expensive. I'm earning quite a bit more. So I went from 5 to 10K a month to like anywhere from 20 to 40K a month. And
that's amazing, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I charge more, and I am also a better coach. Like, I get even better results for my clients now, and they're enjoying the calls even more as well. So like, it's not just a benefit to me. It's had benefit for my family. You get to experience this lifestyle and have a happier Ben. And it's also been beneficial for my clients as well, because they're getting better results and enjoying the process more too.
Yeah, that's awesome, Ben. Also, how much were you working before, and how much are you working now? I think this is important.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. It's been such a transformative change for me that I kind of forget all of the things that used to suck. They're just like not part of my reality anymore. So I used to work well over 60 hours. And most of that was really ineffective. It was busy work, and it was lots of things that I felt I had to do. Like I had this big, strong drive of like, oh no, I have to work. Otherwise, what happens if one of my clients leaves? Like I have no leads, or I'll have no leads, or what if I go through a drive spell? Or like there was so much fear. And that was driving a lot of work that I didn't actually need to really be doing. I tried all the marketing things as well as all the like the therapies and the conferences and masterminds and things. Like I tried all the marketing things, and I spent a lot of my time jumping from different marketing thing to different marketing thing, totally unnecessarily.
And how much do you work these days while traveling? I remember you said you were going to try this, and I'm curious how much you actually.
Yeah, so I only do calls on Tuesdays to Thursdays. I don't do calls on Mondays or Fridays, and I generally don't actually work. I just, might look at some emails, make sure there's nothing urgent from clients, for maybe 15 minutes, half an hour. I think it's like 10 hours a week, maybe. Whatever.
It's amazing.
Do for work. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but that's what you can get, like when you have a skill set that you've accumulated for 15 years and you finally kind of unlock it. So, but let's talk about this. Let's get into it. The meat of kind of what your transformation was for me was a lot around imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Would you agree on that?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, like you and I first met because we were matched up in a mastermind, and I quit that mastermind. Yeah. And I quit that mastermind because I would be so anxious every time that like this Itamar guy, like he sees straight to the core of things. He's going to find me out.
Wow. Yeah. So
like my imposter syndrome drove me away from the guy that was actually needed to help me, unfortunately. So yeah, it was enormous. Like every time I did anything, there was so much stalling and procrastination and thinking and fear and anxiety and everything around it. And then, I would do the thing in a small, lower level way because of the fear. And then, after I did do it, I was like anxiety, and like when it didn't actually work because my imposter syndrome, like I'd reduced it to an ineffective dose, this thing that I'd done. And then nothing came of it. That would like just reinforce the things like, oh, I'm no good at this. I can teach other people and get them results. But I can't do it for myself. Actually, no, I didn't even think that. At the time, I was like, oh, I'm no good. I'm making it up on the fly every coaching call. Oh my God, I hope they don't ask me a hard question, or that there's something, just today's the day that they realize, oh, Ben doesn't actually know what he's talking about. Like it was just everywhere, this imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So what was your process in getting over it and getting to this other side? How did that really happen for you?
There were two things that happened.
Sorry, Ben. Sorry. If I may, I want to retract that. I think there's I want to ask a better question for the audience.
Okay.
How would you say this is a way for you to notice if you're suffering from this? If it actually is imposter syndrome and you do have skills, but you're just not seeing it, or whatever it may be. How would you advise somebody to first off be aware that this is probably what's ailing them?
Yep. So I think if you have some of those feelings I described where you don't think you're worthy to do something, or you think you're going to get found out, that one in particular, if you think you're a fraud and it's just a matter of time before other people find out, that kind of thing is a big clue. But I think coupling or comparing how you see yourself versus how other people see you and trying to get some objective evidence into the mix helps a little. I mean, it's fear, so it's very hard to out-logic fear sometimes, but it was helpful to me. One of the helpful things in the arena was when there were a number of other business owners on the call, and Itamar, you spelled through, what are the kind of results that you get? And then they were like, there was an objective voice, I think, that was pointing out the fact that, like, hang on a minute, the way you think of yourself isn't right. I think, if people are like, for the listeners to answer the question you asked, if they think of themselves as some way and then, you share that with somebody who would be able to objectively evaluate it, and they say, hang on a minute, I don't know where you're getting your ideas from. Like, you don't suck. You're not a fraud. Like, this is who you are up here, you know, not this down this level that you think of yourself. And so that's like one of the symptoms. If other people continuously look at you and go, you know, why are you doing this small thing? Why are you charging so little? Like, you know, the advice that you're given in your business is like, go for this high thing. There's a reason why they're saying that. It's because you have imposter syndrome and you don't believe it.
Yeah. Like, I'll be honest with you. What you said at first was like, if you feel not sure of yourself, and then I was like, I'm a bit cautious here. Some people, it's valid for them to not feel sure.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? You were already 14 years into this. That was the big difference.
Yeah.
And that's why when objectively other people saw like your experience and the results, they're like, this doesn't add up. And I think what you just mentioned now about asking somebody else who has a bit of domain knowledge and a bit of merit in this department, am I acting in line with how I should be acting, or am I way, way lower than that? That's a really great way to do that.
Yeah. And just to give the listener a heads up, it's like, that's the piece of advice that works, but your imposter syndrome and your sense of being a fraud is going to like skyrocket until that person answers in a non-judgmental way. So like, mentally prepare yourself, emotionally prepare yourself that like you're going to feel really awful potentially. But that's you know, one of the lead dominoes there is just.
You mean feel awful like while you're asking this, because it's such a nerve-wracking question to ask, whether it's going to validate your fears or not?
Exactly. Yeah. Because the imposter syndrome is trying to protect you from getting found out as a fraud, or like that's how it seems. And like, you're going to ask someone, am I a fraud?
That's fair. So I do want to ask you something, because I just literally remembered this when we had our initial call, so the application call into the arena. I remember you cussed me out because you said some blog post made something click for you. You're like, from a blog post, Itamar, like, go to hell. I don't remember what that blog post was, but I remember it really upset you that it made something click. And I'm wondering what it is that clicked for you. And you're like, oh, this might actually be what's going on here. Because again, that could help people kind of identify things.
Yeah. Yep. And just to clarify, that was an affectionate way I was doing that.
I know it's an Australian thing. I've learned whenever Australian people cuss me out, it's a weird way of affection.
Yeah, exactly. Damn you! You're so right. Let's see, which particular blog post was it? I remember the lightening the load point was really helpful. There was a lot of stuff in there that you've incorporated into other things in your content and your opt-ins and things. Sorry, I can't remember which blog post was it. I don't remember.
No worries, it's all good. So let's move on from that, though. All right. So please walk us through. This is how you can identify it. What was your personal journey in overcoming that, and really kind of shedding yourself of that weight?
Yeah. So I think it started with like, I was tired of trying to fix this problem and it not being fixed. I was tired of my life not being at the level that I wanted it to be at. I was tired of all the symptoms of it, like all the constant anxiety and worry. I'm like, it's got to change. Which was helpful to have that rock bottom or moment or whatever you might call it. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know. For me, it was. Sorry, this is, you know, how did I move through this? How do I get past this stuff? That was the question?
Yeah, but I think it's a valid point what you're saying. Like, first off, you decided enough was enough. That has to be the starting point. You got to a place where you're like, this is just not acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was one piece. It's like, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. So that then made me comfortable enough to expose myself to your content, like read through your blog post. And a couple of friends had been telling me, oh, you need to, Ben, you know, friends that know me really well and have worked with me, like, Ben, you need to work with Itamar. You need to have a conversation with Itamar. He will fix this stuff. And it took a while. Having that I've had enough moment made me go check out your blog. And like, you know, baby steps, fighting against the imposter syndrome. It felt like I had this big weight on my back, or like a bungee cord attached to the wall behind me, and I was trying to walk, and it was really, really hard. And so baby steps helped. So reading the blog posts, signing up for the email list, doing the Lightning the Load mini course, pointed out that there is a way to fix this.
Yeah.
It is something that can be fixed, and it gave me it made a difference.
So I'm sorry, that's really interesting. So what you're saying is that before you didn't think there was a way to fix this. Like you were just like, this is just something I'm going to have to live with.
Well, I had given up after trying all of those things.
Wow.
I had given up on thinking that there's a solution out there.
Wow.
And yeah, so realizing that there was something that could help, and there was some advice in the blog post and in the mini course that I opted into that I implemented, and it helped. I'm like, and it gave me so much hope. That like, oh, you can get past this. You can defeat these things. Your life, this doesn't have to be a permanent part of your life. Like having brown eyes, for example. It's like you can put contacts on, but you can't actually change your eye color, and it's something you have to accept if you don't like it. Yeah. But like this mindset stuff and this imposter syndrome stuff, like you can work through it. It is actually possible. And then, and what I did, it's like not only did it give me hope, so I started trying, thinking that, yes, I'm going to invest in a solution. I'm going to do something. It was something that,
sorry, if I may, I just want to say that that's amazing. I never knew that. I never knew that that's where you were, that you had given up hope on this and you didn't think it was possible anymore. And I think, honestly, just like, I'm so happy with this podcast in case there's anybody else out there who it's kind of like lost hope on it. Just think this is something that they have to accept and how their life will be. And
yeah,
just that is like it's worth this episode and like its weight in gold, so to speak.
Yeah,
I'm very glad we clarified that. It's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Sorry, I was interrupting you though. Please go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, definitely good to underscore for people that like if you've tried all the blog posts about trying to get rid of imposter syndrome before and it hasn't worked, or you've tried a therapist and it hasn't worked, it's just it is something you can fix. So, yes, that gave me hope, and I started like taking action again. So reading more blog posts, and I reached out to you for a call. But I think it also, one of the other things that it did, apart from like getting me to work on it, is it also weakened my imposter syndrome enough that I could take the next step. And so there's an element of snowball metaphor about dealing with this stuff. I feel like I'm at the fun part of the snowball metaphor, where it's like there's the big snowball and it's a little bit unstoppable now, which is good. It has momentum, but like at the beginning, it's like there's baby steps. You got to like roll that snowball down, and it doesn't seem to be making much progress, but it enables the next step, and then you can take bigger and bigger steps and work on the harder and harder, deeper and deeper aspects of it. So that's something else I wanted to share with people. It's like my transformation was pretty rapid, but that's not to say that like it was like large, big, easy steps from the very beginning. It was definitely a snowball. It's like very small snowball at the beginning, and then like that thing became a monster. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it does. And it's so interesting because honestly, this is not at all what I was expecting to talk about today, but I think
Me neither.
But it's so powerful. I think it's such a big thing for a lot of people. First off, recognizing that they don't have to surrender, that this is just a reality. And it's a shame. I don't know that people like that was a situation for a lot of people, and it probably is. And the second thing, how you're saying, is that you can take small steps as well. It's like it doesn't have to be this binary all or nothing. I'm going to figure out this one silver bullet and it's going to solve everything magically. But just there's a way to take small steps, and every time you take one step, you can take the next step, and then you have enough strength and momentum to take the next steps, and so on and so on and so on. So you had enough momentum, and then you joined the program, and that's when you made like a giant jump. So what actually happened there? Take us there.
Okay.
What helped you, and what could help other people, so to speak?
Okay, so there was a lot of things that I got from the arena, and a lot of ways that it helps me. We will be forever if I don't focus it on the imposter syndrome stuff.
Yeah, that's their problem.
So, I think the question that really helped, one of the questions that really helped is this idea of actually no, I'll leave that point till afterwards. Let me come back to the point I mentioned earlier about there were other people on the call, and you asked me some questions that brought out the fact of what I do, no emotions, and it was like really good that you were able to keep me just to the facts, and then having the other people on the call. Sorry, go on.
So do you remember how we did that?
I do, and I'm leading up to that. It was really powerful. And having the other people on the call, other business owners, varying levels, varying industries, varying countries, and backgrounds, look at those objective facts and say, and to like confirm that like how I should think of myself is a lot higher than I am, and that the gap there, it became so obvious, and it's something that I keep coming back to. So I took lots of notes during that call, and I like at least once a month open up that Google Doc and read that section of what we did, because it's so powerful. And so the concept was externalizing. Instead of saying, thinking about myself, it was what you advised me to do, and it's worked really well, is, I was calling myself a profits coach, and it was profits coach X, or someone like Ben, not Ben. No. We're not talking about Ben. You're going to advise someone that's got these traits. Let's just ask a couple of questions and to clarify what those traits are that this person has. Like, okay, now advise that person what they should be doing, what they should be charging, who they should be talking to, all that kind of stuff. And so depersonalizing it.
I want to clarify this just for a second, just for the audience. So what we did here, we really flushed out like who this Ben person kind of is, who his profits coach is. If you take off the emotional person, we just ask, okay, what are his accomplishments? What are his achievements? What are the results he gets for clients? What is his reputation? Do clients enjoy working with him? Do they not? And so on and so on. Also, like, what are his traits? Is he a dependable person? Is he an honest person? And so on and so on. And then we were able to objectively like look at this kind of resume almost and say, how should this kind of person conduct himself in the world, both in business and in personal life? And that's really what that crux of the exercise was.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, it was really powerful. And then the last piece, because this was in the context of tackling how much should that person charge. It was like Ben, all the questions. I just
want to say one more thing here before we go. Because I know that it's powerful, but I also remember how uncomfortable it was. And whenever I do this context, it's very uncomfortable. And I'd love for you just to say why it's uncomfortable, or just reminisce about. Like, I think it's important to like look at both sides of the coin. That it's not just this awesome airy fairy thing, but it is uncomfortable to look at it.
Oh yes, absolutely. It is very uncomfortable, and I'm glad it wasn't the first thing we did on the first call of the arena, because I wasn't ready at that point. I wasn't comfortable in front of the group.
Why was it uncomfortable though?
Well, I think the fundamental thing about imposter syndrome, or one of the big things about it, is that it's a belief thing versus a facts thing, and it can defeat facts in a lot of cases. When you're just thinking to yourself, like, okay, I've got this great result for a client, immediately it's overwritten as that was a fluke. Or it's minimized in some way. It's like, oh yeah, but I had this other client where I didn't get such an amazing result for them, or something like it's always like noticing, being present in the moment, and separating like what are the facts and then what's the reaction from your imposter syndrome, like how it interprets those facts. Staying present and believing those facts, and I don't know, it was a big uncomfortable struggle to sit with them and not automatically minimize them.
Yeah, so basically person X is one of the most aggressive intervention tools I use. Because it is an intervention tool. It's literally saying, this is what you think of yourself. Like, people don't think they're an alcoholic, but then like, no, your whole family's saying you're an alcoholic. It's similar to that. Like, this is what you think of yourself, but this is what's actually going on. And seeing that in front of you in such clear, that's why I didn't ask you just to talk about it. We actually wrote it down on a doc and we shared a screen with everybody.
Yes.
Because I wanted just to be there like in front of you so you could see it. And I think that's what creates that discomfort. Like, wow, I might need to change my worldview here.
Yeah.
Because what I've been going on off of isn't the truth.
Yes. Actually, it's very interesting. You use the alcoholic thing in there as an example. Like, it oddly, I feel like it had the same amount of discomfort and guilt and shame, or some negative emotions that I had been behaving the way I had behaving when all these facts are in front of me. Like, this is the kind of person that I am. I have been charging so little. My family has been deprived of a better quality life that I could have had if I had been charging the right amount, if I hadn't been acting as if I'm not quite the person that I am. Like, there was some regret and some negative things that were there that I had to face as well. It was like, yeah, it was, when you asked me the question earlier, like, it was uncomfortable, right? And I can say yes, but like, trying to get specific about the uncomfortable feelings is really hard because there were many and they all kind of blurred together. It's hard to pick one of them out of the soup.
But I think it's what you're saying. It's there. It's that realization that you were not acting how you should, not how you wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is really big. So let's like finally really get into the meat of it. What happened from there? Like, keep taking us through it.
Okay, so that was the big one, and that Person X exercise has been something that you've used with me as well in our one-on-one coaching, because it works really well for me and for defeating my imposter syndrome. There are other things that were really helpful is this idea that you shared in the arena of, okay, here's what you want. Like, we worked out what do you want, and then who's the person you need to become in order to achieve that, or what kind of a person achieves those goals. What do you need to do differently? What are the rules that you would make decisions by? What are the things you would do or not do? What are the values you would hold or not focus on? All those things gave me a blueprint of what life on the other side of imposter syndrome looked like, which was, it's helpful to have a light at the end of the tunnel for like, hope, whenever you're slogging through something emotionally difficult. But it gave me a kind of a benchmark for me to see, am I making progress as fast as I would like? And if I'm not making progress, like, that's a sign that, there's more to dig into here, and need to do about it. And it gave me clarity as well. It made it so obvious between the Person X exercise and the who do I need to be, or what kind of a person would achieve what I want to achieve. It was just so much clarity, as opposed to the fog of imposter syndrome and the minimizing of the facts and like misdirection and procrastination and all the kind of stuff that happens. That clarity was really powerful.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think to kind of just encapsulate all that, a lot of times I think people don't see success trying to deal with basically creating a new version of themselves. Like you said, you call it a transformation, to deal with like transforming into a new person. Because if they only try, sometimes without success, sometimes with success, to kind of remove the constraints they have, the blocks they have. But they also don't clarify what the new version is supposed to be. So they don't know what they need to move towards once they don't have whatever's holding them back. So they're just kind of stuck in this no man's land all of a sudden. They've maybe shed their old identity, but they haven't clarified what the new identity they're trying to pursue is. So they're just stuck there. And then they end up reverting back to that old identity just because it's familiar.
Absolutely. The example that I see in coaching my clients is they tell me their goal is to sell their business one day. And then I'm like, okay, You want to sell your business in 12 months or 24 months? Great. This is the plan we're going to do to get there. And when they start getting close to it, they're like, I could do this for another 3 months, grow my business a bit bigger and sell it for a bit more. I could do this for another 6 months or 12 months or whatever it is. Like, they don't pull the trigger on the thing that they said that's important to them. And there's an element of, like, yes, recalibrating your goals when you get close to them is okay. But for a couple of people, they didn't decide to list their business. They didn't pull the trigger onto that until I said, we went through a deep exercise of, like, what does your life look like afterwards? And this is one of them was me going through the arena. And I had better tools that I could use to do that, to help them through that. And it's something that is in, like, the Bible of the online business world, like the 4-hour work week. It's like, you've got to build a picture about what your life looks like after you retire. Otherwise you never will, I think was the way Tim Ferriss phrased it in there. Like, if you don't know what it looks like, you'll stay in the comfortable and the familiar. And so, yeah, it was really helpful for me to have that help to build the picture of Ben, and what he looks like. Because I can all day I could do, the spreadsheet daydreaming thing of, like, this is how much revenue I want to make. And so therefore it's this many clients at this price. And I have to do these different marketing metricy things. But I had no toolkit for doing that on the personal side, like the values and the how I would make my decisions, and that kind of piece. So that was really helpful, just kind of in general, but also for, like, getting through the imposter syndrome.
And I want to say, this is so interesting. I've learned a lot actually in this episode, because I was thinking it's going to go an entirely different way, where we talk about from more technical perspective, how, like, what we did and what this caused this, and then this exercise or that exercise. And really what you've talked about, and like you said, this is such an emotional thing. And you talked about the emotional process of getting yourself to first get going by saying, like, enough is enough. Like, saying, I don't like this situation. I don't accept it anymore. And then what gave you the emotional permission to say, okay, maybe this is valid to change, when there was that intervention and people around you were saying this doesn't make sense. And then finally, what gave you the courage to make the leap into the new you, by clarifying what that new you is, and not just being in the lull. And I think it's such an interesting arc. I saying you got over it by first, again, recognizing that you're not accepting it, then having some kind of emotional understanding that this isn't actually what needs to be. It's not relevant. And then finally saying, okay, what do I actually want? And then let me step into that. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of glad that we went this way now that I think about it, because, I mean, you can give people the steps to follow. Like, all these exercises are not intellectually complicated. They're emotionally complicated. Yeah, exactly. And for some of them, you do need somebody else. You can't do this on your own. You need someone who's really good at it. And that's why the arena was really powerful for me, and our one-on-one coaching. And I'm not just saying this to try and sell your coaching or anything, but it's amazing and everyone should buy it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. But the reason why it was helpful is because there's somebody on the other side, and that's you. Like, as you said, like, you opened a Google Doc and you typed down all of these facts about Profits Coach X, or someone like Ben. You typed it all out and it was there in front of my face, and you saw that was necessary. If I had read in a blog post that, like, here's the tools, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. Like, you need a helping hand if you want to go faster. I
want to this is something that's really interesting what you said. I expected you to say, I probably wouldn't have done it on my own. Like, I just wouldn't have done it, because we read the things, but we don't actually do it. But you said I wouldn't have been able to. What do you mean by that? You wouldn't have been able to do it on your own?
So, I am a very intelligent guy, and thanks to this work, I'm able to actually say that on a podcast.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you're owning up to that.
So I'm a very intelligent guy, so I can figure pretty much anything out if on very little information. I can learn fast. Like all the bits and pieces are there. So what defeats me is, and what was defeating me with the imposter syndrome is the emotional stuff. So if you had given me the tools, I'm like, yeah, I probably could have done, run with it intellectually. Like the person exercise is very, very simple. We could walk people through it. And maybe it might be helpful to do that anyway, so that they could do it, they could do it as they listen. But if you don't tackle the emotional side of things, people will listen to this episode, go, oh yeah, that sounds really good. You know, that makes logical sense. I like the way I can see that. It will definitely be helpful. I'll do that later. You know, people listening to podcasts might be like exercising or walking. They're like, okay, cool. I will block out some time in my calendar and I'll do that later. And then mysteriously the time doesn't get blocked out in the calendar. They get distracted. Yeah. And like, that's the way to defeat, if we were having a mental battle, the way to defeat me is not giving me a problem I can't solve, because like you give me a complicated problem and I'm going to be excited about it. It's like distraction, misdirection, all this emotional stuff. And so like, I want to make sure that I highlight that for people, because if we did just give them the exercise, they wouldn't do it. And so if there were anything like I was,
I think this is great, man. And we'll wrap it up because there is resources for that I offer, how to do this exercise. And again, you'll find them somewhere in the show notes below or in the links around this video. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's such a great segue. And Ben, like, do you have any final words you want to say? Any advice for people who feel this kind of pinch?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to underscore baby steps. Take the baby steps. If you get used to taking something, a little step that's a little uncomfortable, you get used to the discomfort, and it just like it snowballs from there, and it's amazing. I also want to add something that I'm not sure where would be the best point to fit this in the episode. Is like, for me, one of my big signs, like I said, misdirection and distraction is the way to defeat me. So what that manifests as is, if Itamar and I are on a coaching call or on the arena calls, or I'm talking to anybody really, if my brain starts going blank, because I'm used to a certain buzz of my thoughts, I'm thinking about what the person just said, I'm thinking about what I'm about to say, I'm thinking about the words coming out of my mouth. We've all got this little buzz of thoughts going in our head. And for me, when that goes quiet and I have trouble remembering what the person just said, I'm like, aha, I see you, imposter syndrome. What they just said must be really super duper valuable and exactly what I need to hear, because I can't remember it. That was kind of
emotionally, and all of a sudden you're not thinking in your rational brain anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That was one of the signs for me. It's like, aha, there's something super valuable. And I started to get excited when my brain goes blank. Now I get excited. It doesn't happen as often, but when it does, I'm like, oh, this is something big. And like, which reminds me of, if Itamar ever says to you, can I challenge you on this? Or can I ask you something? Like, you always say yes. It might be painful what he's going to say potentially, but like, it's going to be good. It's going to be the good stuff. So,
it's going to be well intended. And honestly, that was something that made me feel uncomfortable during this podcast is when you said that we were originally on that mastermind and you felt like, oh, this guy's going to see through me. Mm. It made me immediately recognize, man, yeah, that was, I think, a younger me whose main purpose was probably to see the truth instead of helping people more so. And man, Ben should have felt like this guy really wants to see what's going on so he can help me. And that wasn't what you said. It's like, now that's my focus, like to help to see things in people, but in order to really help and do it from like a great place, not just a place of me being able to see things and feeling good about myself, and being able to call bullshit. You know what I mean? Yes,
I felt like it was more, you were more direct and to the point. Like, here's a problem, here's the solution. Like, right to it with no...
It was about me clarifying the truth, not about me wanting to help. And that's why I was doing it in a different way.
Yes. I don't know. I want to challenge you on that point. For me, the perspective wasn't that you were pointing out like, here's how you suck. It was just like there was probably just needed a bit more cushioning before you tell people the truth they needed to hear. That was basically it. And like it was always a helpful thing. Yeah, it was always a helpful thing. But it was just, when I was deep in my imposter syndrome, my God, it was terrifying. Like, oh no, it's fine. And there was Emil was on that call as well. He was on that mastermind call as well. And same thing, same thing. Like, you guys are so clear. And it was something that I aspired to and I respected, and I wanted to be like that, and I'm working on it. But like, man, my imposter syndrome said, run away, man. Just none of that.
Awesome, man. All right, Ben, I want to say a big thank you for being on the show and sharing it. And it took such a different route, but I think such a better route than what I had planned for. And I want to say a big thank you for that, man.
No worries. It was a pleasure.
See you guys on the next episode. Bye.